Good morning. I just got in. Tried to record something, but I was way too scattered because the camera is probably still not quite straight. But I wanted to wax lyrical for a little while about the difference between. Okay, so I'm using Mold Max, which is by Smooth On, as my initial coat for a sculpture. And with my last mold that delaminated really badly, I'm going to finish that video and put it up. It's quite horrific. The platinum silicone that I put over it, which was a very good one. I believe it was this one. It's a very good silicone for its purpose, which is kind of use it on its own. But so I'm wondering how to start at the beginning here because I've got very limited time, and so I haven't had a chance to gather my thoughts and actually construct this video clearly. You can put certain silicones over other silicones and not the other way around. So if you've got platinum down, the tin cure will bond to it. If you've got tin cure down as your first coat, like I've got with this Mold Max on here, the platinum is not going to actually bond to it. In fact, the tin cure acts as an inhibitor for the platinum cure, which is a pain when you don't know it, and you don't know what order you should be using things in. Because uncured silicone is the bane of pretty much everybody's existence. In fact, I have a suspicion I may have a little bit of a problem back here. For some reason, a bit of this, I think it might just be that the layer is too thin. So sometimes you'll find very thin layers of even the tin cure silicone don't cure, and you've got to leave them forever before they cure. So what I'm hoping is that by adding more over the surface, that will function in a thicker way and give it something to bond to. Because they all bond by creating these cross links. So if it's too thin, there's nothing for it to cross link to properly. And then by putting something over it, that often works. But I'm using entirely for this one, I'm only using tin cure because of the disaster with the delaminating that I had in the last mold. And so far, I've tested quite thoroughly, and everything is bonding. Like if I try and scratch this off, it's pretty perfectly, even right next to it, the Mold Max 30 isn't completely cured. I've put this, I call it cheap sil because it's really, really inexpensive compared to the other ones. Not the Mold Max 30, which is actually not closed because I did everything in a rush yesterday. You can see I've trimmed the edge there for pouring. You see how I trimmed that little thing, so that's flat. It's just so much easier to clean up and you don't end up with that drippy mess. Where is my Amsel? Amsel is my cheap silicone, which I'm trying to make this video about. Okay. This little gem is also a tin cure. It's got a weird mix ratio. So it's this purple, this green stuff. You can see the mix ratio on there is 2 to 100, which is quite an odd mix ratio when you're trying to work with like 175 grams. So you just end up having to do an unnecessary amount of mental arithmetic. I love maths, but I hate arithmetic. So I try to kind of work in whole numbers, even if it's the incorrect amount to put on a particular surface. I've also realized I'm quite good at eyeballing when it comes to the silicones that I'm used to. So with this, I can actually almost eyeball the ratio and come out with the numbers correct on the scale, which I was very, very pleased with myself about. but I didn't get a recording of that, so you can believe me or not. I believe me. Yeah, so I'm going to carry on with this. The Amsel is bonding nicely to the Mold Max 30. They're made by different manufacturers, but they're both tin cure. I will not be using platinum cure on this. If I were to use a platinum cure on anything, I would use it first as my initial layer because it's quite good at coming out bubble free. At least the smooth sill is. And then on top of that, I would put the tin cure because platinum doesn't inhibit tin cure, but tin cure inhibits platinum. So if you're geeky enough to have followed any of that, yay, you've got new information that I didn't have, and you can hopefully save some money. If you save money, send it to me. I don't have any particular way for you to send it to me, but find me on Instagram and offer me money, I guess. Okay, I will record something else inane and show it to you when I'm done. Okay, here's another thing. I've put quite a lot of silicone into this cup, and unfortunately my palette knife is going to end up with a whole lot of silicone up the neck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out which palette knife I'm using. Just get as much as I can of that. Look how nicely they clean up. I mean, they really are way, way more efficient than whatever sticks people decide to use. They're just a better tool. Just use the better tool. So this one's a bit large compared to what I'd normally use, but it's quite long. So I'm not going to end up with a whole lot of gunk on the ferrule and neck of the... I actually don't know what the name of this shank, maybe? Yeah, I think it might be called a shank. Because that's just uncured, it's unmixed, it's ugly. And I do not like it at all. So this cheap sill, Amsel, sorry, tends to cure up really quickly in the cup. So you've got to mix it extremely vigorously. I do not have a vacuum chamber to vacuum it out. But it ends up almost like it's got a thixotrope in it quite quickly. So you can actually use it for the later stages of making a larger mold without a whole lot of drips. I'm just jamming some stuff into some bubbles I snipped open earlier. And it cures extremely quickly, as I said. So you've got a very short pot life. So if you're working quickly and you're working on a very drippy potential surface, you know, you're not going to end up with too much wastage because it doesn't have time to drip off like the Mold Max does. I have no idea if you can hear me. There are helicopters now. Like, I'm sorry, this is a very noisy work environment. One day I will have the perfect soundproof studio to do demos in. But for now, you guys are getting this for free, so suck it up. I'm not getting sponsored by anybody. It's not like this is, you know, telling you guys about it is my job. It's not. I tell you guys about it because I'm compelled to share and to teach for some bizarre reason. I had a Buddhist teacher many years ago, and I said, you know, I think I might have teacher karma, because he was talking about it, and it was back when I was still pretty into the Buddhism thing. I'm way less inclined to any kind of traditions now. Yeah, anyway, very long waffle. But I do seem to, he said, why do you think you've got teacher karma? And I said, because I keep ending up teaching. So, and he just kind of nodded. He didn't really give me any more feedback on that. I think he figured I'd find my own path. He was a Zen master, is a Zen master. So I assume he's dealt with a fair number of people with a whole lot of bizarre ideas about themselves. I was in my 20s at the time. So, was I? Maybe early 30s. But anyway, I do somehow end up teaching a lot. I like it. I enjoy just sharing info. I'm clearly out of practice with lecture mode though, because I keep saying which is probably... This video's gone on longer than it should have. Actually, I just stopped the video and I shouldn't have, because I can show you it's already curing. It's still quite drippy, but it's definitely gloopier than it was, and the texture's changed quite radically. So, this is definitely not your first coat, ever, if you can help it, because it's full of bubbles. It's kind of crude to work with, but it is dirt cheap and cures quite nicely, quite fast, and quite consistently. Like I cannot fault it for the consistency of curing. It doesn't seem to give me any of the usual platinum issues. And just that last bit in the bottom is slightly unmixed because I put too much in the cup. So if I mix that up now, because this whole lot cures so quickly, it's probably going to take very slightly longer than the initial bit to cure, but only by a few minutes. So it really doesn't matter too much. Tin cure is an astonishingly forgiving substance to work with in silicone. The platinum ones are, I mean, they've got their place, but they are fussy and they have no chill. They have zero chill, where the tin cure silicones are pretty chilled to work with. They'll forgive you for a little bit of sulfur in the air. They'll forgive you if you get the mix ratio slightly wrong. They'll forgive you even if you use the wrong catalyst to a degree, if you don't go and mix them with another with the platinum, because the platinum's never going to cure. I did that once. I mixed I didn't realize which cans I had on the table. And I mixed a 1-to-1 ratio platinum silicone with, I think it was just a regular mold max or something like that, tin cure. And I just had gloop. It was just gloop. It was never going to cure. Nothing good was ever going to come from it. So, lesson very, very painfully learned there. Because obviously the platinum's extraordinarily expensive. I've still got the other one, which is now out of proportion to the one that I used. The other part of the platinum pair, because it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so you get the buckets as a pair. I probably should have more coffee before starting to explain myself, because I think everybody who bothers to watch this is going to be so completely lost what I'm wittering about. But do what I do. Listen to people in the background while you're doing other tasks. Slowly the information filters through, and some of this will end up making sense. But if you get, if you want somebody who's not going to confuse you and who's just going to be delightful overall, go watch somebody like Robert Talone or Brick in the Yard. They're also lovely. Brick in the Yard mold supplies give a lot of really good info. I'll link to both on my YouTube version of this. I might be able to tag them in the Insta, but I've just finished doing a house move, so I'm fairly chaotic in every respect. You may wonder why I've suddenly turned this mold on its side, and the reason is that I was getting all sorts of weird shapes on the underneath of these sweeping, ridiculous shapes that I'm trying to wrap the silicone around. So I needed to, where's my paper? My paper. I needed to just get in under and start coming in from other angles, otherwise you end up with these very odd bubbles. Sorry, I dropped this in the tips, and I should not have, because I've got to do a bunch of tidying up now, so I'm just wiping the worst of that off. Yeah, it doesn't smell like turps anymore. I'm just going to sweep up underneath, and I don't like all